would you like to explore anything or share anything? It can even just be sharing, it doesn't have to be an exploration.
Yeah, I just, when I read here, I was like, I had this feeling, and I have it generally. Somehow this year when I came to Tiru, I was before several times, and it was completely different. And this year I have some kind of crisis. My feeling is I don't belong here, but I don't belong also in the Western society. So not this kind of spiritual call so strong, not that. And I'm in some limbo. I don't know what to do in a way, because like this, can you comment on that something?
I felt like that all my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Because me too. And then I tried this path, before I was in a business, kind of, Then I dropped it, and then I tried, because it was like boring to me, it became very boring, And I thought if life is all about this, I'm not interested anymore, And then I started this path. And now I have also here, So, what to do?
So correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just interpreting the little I know about you. At a certain point on what we call the spiritual search, the spiritual path, then either through direct experience and or intellectual understanding, the object of our search disappears. We realize we're not separate from what we are searching. So then the desire, the motivation, the need to search starts to disappear. So even whether it's Ramana or the mountain or a spiritual place or a practice, it starts to disappear. The need to do it, to be with it, to dwell in it.
Feel exactly. That's how I feel. It just disappears.
And nothing really replaces it, from my experience, as an object. There isn't another kind of strong calling or strong desire to search or achieve something. But what happens is there's a sort of quiet, more gentle, more peaceful acceptance of anything and everything that's happening. And then it becomes, in my experience, more about responding to the needs that arise. Before it was an idea, enlightenment, peace, joy, which is also an experience, but it was an idea, I'm not complete. It was an idea, I want to be one with God. It was an idea, I want to be enlightened. An idea, I want to stop suffering. Whatever the idea is, I want to heal from my past. And then it becomes more just responding to the needs. Okay, this winter we wanted to come to a warmer climate. Next winter, something else. Summer, this. And so then it becomes just responding to the needs and desires of the body, mind, and will. And in that sense, there's no one place for some of us. Or temporarily we feel this is our place. Then the place changes. We become more nomadic. Not literally nomadic, but in our thinking, we're more nomadic. Because the identity structure, the ego, the personality, the individual me, is dissolving. So then the need to be identified with a particular culture, place, activity also dissolves. It can be uncomfortable at the beginning, this so-called shift, but a part of us knows, this is also what's meant to happen. This too will pass. And the only real discomfort in that sense is for the ego intellect, which is used to a certain kind of certainty, or thought or believed there was a certain kind of certainty. even a yearly pattern of going from one place to the other, or the kind of certainty that when we come here we're going to experience certain things, meet the mountain, Ramana, other friends on the path. So this certainty starts to be recognized as really uncertain. Everything is uncertain. Everything is always changing. But that uncertainty, that change, which has always been there anyway, it's just the mind has been filtering it, it becomes okay. It becomes quite relaxing.
It's just to take like it is as it is.
So anyway, it's always been the way it is, hasn't it? It's just the filter of the mind that is more deeply accepting this is what it is. It's the flow of life that's always existed. And previously, the ego intellect believed it could influence the flow of life. Now the ego intellect is more deeply or accepting, I'm part of the flow of life. I can't actually influence the flow of life very much. So the image I like to use is a very big river. And even if the river is flowing very gently, we are a small object, body-mind organism, in the river. We can't influence the flow of this river. And the more we relax, the more we're not afraid of what's going to happen to us in this big river. And we gently float through the river, enjoying the scenery that's passing. That's always been happening. It's just the ego intellect believed that we had some control over it.
It's just like also in Satsangs people ask questions and so on, and I see that they are very devoted to some kind of guru or whatever, and I cannot get it.
You never
I'm
had
kind
that.
of feeling a little jealous. I
Yeah.
think why I cannot get it, why I cannot surrender, why, what is wrong with me? Because my intellect, I take things intellectually,
Yes.
yeah, and it looks it's not my past, just like that, yeah.
That's right. For some people it's not the destiny to have a particular teacher or guru. And for others it is. One is not more right than the other. One is not more wrong than the other. It's just what that particular ego intellect needs. And so for some, the surrender to one particular teacher or guru helps in the understanding. In my case, that's what happened. I did not want a guru. I didn't surrender to anybody. Any teacher, parents, anybody, girlfriends, never. But when it happened, it was total. And it was the most beautiful thing. For me, this particular body-mind organism. That's exactly what I needed at that time in my life. To understand certain spiritual ideas. Yeah. So I'd understood those ideas from direct experience before meeting him. But the combination of the understanding and the direct experience, let's say, needed that ingredient of the guru, my relationship with the guru. So I would ask him a question and he would give me an answer. And I never questioned the answer. It would go in straight away. Sometimes I wouldn't even understand it immediately. Sometimes he would give me an answer which I didn't like, which felt uncomfortable. That was acceptable. That's what I needed, this particular ego intellect needed. Other body-mind organisms don't need that. The understanding is happening in a different way. But if the heart in some way is experiencing a missing or a longing for it, then who knows, it might still happen in your life. Or it'll happen in a different way. met a beautiful couple. They live in France, but she's originally from one of the African countries. And they used to come to Ramesh regularly. And we used to go after Satsang sometimes to a local sports club where they had a beautiful swimming pool. A few of us would have lunch there and chat and swim and spend the afternoons there. We were talking about this guru-disciple relationship and all that. And both of them had felt that Ramesh was their guru quite quickly when they met him. But in the end, it was so beautiful. I forget who said it first. I think maybe she said it. She said, actually, my first guru is my husband. And then he confirmed that. And that was beautiful to hear. And they were talking about their spiritual life, yes? They had this, and they still do, they're still together after, I don't know how many years, a long time. Very beautiful to hear that. So the so-called object of the guru, or the teacher, it could be a human being, it could be of course a mountain, it could be an animal, appears when the ego, what I call the ego intellect, is ready and needs it. And they say that if there's sufficient desire in the heart, whether it's the heart or the mind or the body, I think that element of desiring it has to be there. And certainly from my experience, I never desired it. But when it happened, the desire was so strong. 10 days later, I was with him. But logically, he would not have been the one I would have chosen. There were a few other people I was more interested in meeting, who I'd read about. It's a mystery. It's really a mystery. It's completely beyond the control of the ego intellect. But what I'm saying is, if there is not this desire, perfectly normal. Nothing wrong with it.
You say it's a mystery. Some say it's a grace. It happens.
I once knew a woman called Grace in Singapore. And she was also very mysterious.
Yeah.
You're right, it's Grace.
I also know a girl named Grace. She is also very.
She was also mysterious. Anybody else know a woman called
Yes,
Grace?
I met one
I know.
Japanese girl, and her name also in translation
Also
is
mysterious?
Grace.
Maybe
Yeah.
they're all
They are generally mysterious.
generally mysterious.
Because
Different culture.
she was really.
I know one Grace, she's a psychologist.
Yes. So the thing, I agree with the concept of grace, and I sometimes use the concept of grace. But then, if we look closely at every moment of our life, that's also grace. Every moment of our life is grace. I say that because for some people they haven't experienced this particular kind of grace of a singular big experience, or this meeting of the teacher, the guru, whatever it is. So they're kind of thinking, believing in themselves that something is missing, or oh, what did I do in my past life, or have I not practiced hard enough? These other ideas and beliefs get attached to this idea of grace. And then there's a comparison, there can even be a jealousy, all this kind of thing. So yes, there are these kinds of important transformative moments in our life, which we can call grace. Definitely. But then when we understand the source of grace, whether it's a big moment, and the source of grace, which is every single moment of life, is the same source. The self-consciousness, God, life. So it can't be that this grace is actually more God than this grace. So if we haven't experienced this big grace, we're still God, not experiencing this big grace. And for me, the ultimate grace is then to recognize that there isn't actually grace. It's the understanding beyond the concept of grace, for me, which is the ultimate so-called grace. That grace is just another conceptual description to describe a movement of consciousness within consciousness, as consciousness. The self reflecting itself. So that's why I say every moment of life is grace.
I believe that this grace is the concept for those who are impatient, who don't have patience enough to wait until it happens. So then they realize it's grace, so then they need to be patient and see when it comes.
It's a bit like telling a child, shut up and just wait,
Yes.
and putting something in its mouth. It can work like that. Definitely. Any concept can work in different ways depending on who's hearing it, who's experiencing it. Like to share any more? So I'm curious, out of all the different teachers or teachings you've done, or the practices or whatever, what have you resonated with the most, or what's helped you the most?
Osho.
Osho.
I came to India because of Osho, yeah. I was in a Osho ashram and was working with all. Because when I got his book, it was like...
Yes.
And and then I read a lot of other teachers and this, and anyway everything goes to one, this is my understanding. But now I realized again that no, Osho is not it, because just fits somehow. With all this craziness, with everything. But you see, my feeling is I feel very lonely because, I don't feel connection with people here who are worshipping Arunachal and this, and people following this. And I don't feel any connection with people in the West also, because all this lifestyle and this, it doesn't attract me anymore.
Yes.
And I feel very lonely, this deep loneliness all the time. This is my issue. I try to work in this different place, but it is inside.
And you obviously understand the mechanism of it, and you've worked on it. And so then, from your experience, understanding what the loneliness is and having worked on it, then what do you do? How do you live your life with this loneliness?
Just accept it, because what I can do, I cannot do anything. I just have to accept it.
have you understood and particularly tasted, discovered that when we talk about loneliness, there's a loneliness which is the body-mind organism that we are, the person that we are. And then there are moments where that loneliness is not there. It's not happening as an experience. Then it comes back. So it's coming and going. You've experienced that. Have you experienced that?
Yeah.
Yes. So what is there, and of course then who are you, when you're not experiencing that loneliness?
It's like more when I'm involved in something which for me is exciting, and I'm in nature connecting,
Right.
then this is
You
like
don't
I say, my guru is nature at the
Yes.
moment. Yeah. So
So in that moment you don't have that feeling of loneliness. Is that what you mean? You're connected to
yeah,
nature.
then it's some kind of like settles a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
So
it's mostly these human beings, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, because like I don't belong here, not here.
Yes.
It's very.
What I'm pointing to, and you probably already understood this, is there's the experience of loneliness, which is a biological experience. It's a physical, energetic, emotional experience. And then there's a so-called identity, a belief about loneliness. And the two are not actually the same. You know what I mean? So sometimes the belief, the identification about loneliness drops away. And there's just a kind of an experience of loneliness. For example, being alone when there are no human beings, that's one kind of feeling of being alone. Yes. You can be with people and also feel alone. Yes. But you could be with people or without people and suddenly not feel alone because the identification is dropped away. Do you know what I mean? So in that moment, from your experience, who are you? The idea of loneliness and I am alone, I'm not alone, and all this thing drops away. Who are you?
Then it's more a feeling like just a consciousness.
Yes.
Like that.
That's what I'm saying. You've already understood this, I'm sure. But I found that when I really understood that, and actually egoically, intellectually accepted it, two things happened. That the experience of loneliness wasn't so painful anymore. Because the idea, the belief, had changed. That in actual fact, the duality of being lonely or not lonely disappears. Because you know you are consciousness. And you know consciousness is neither alone or not alone. So that's what happens to the identity or the belief about loneliness. Then sometimes the actual experience of loneliness can appear. Sometimes it's deeply appreciated. I love being alone. But when the story is not there, being alone is very, for me, it's very refreshing, it's rejuvenating, it's recharging, etc. Yes? You might have the same. So all I'm really saying is that sometimes these deeper aspects of so-called discomfort or suffering really just rests on the kind of belief or identification. There might be roots, of course, in our ancestry, and of course roots in our childhood or other experiences. We understand that, and you understand that. I'm talking about beyond that. Beyond that. Then a memory of being lonely as a child or an ancestral memory can come up. It has its effect for a moment. The moment can be several hours, but there's always this, what I call knowing in the background. Actually, I'm not really either alone or not alone. I'm beyond these two. So the mechanism dissolves quietly. One day we experience a similar situation and we notice, I'm not believing that anymore about myself. It's automatically changed. You know that paradoxically, some ideas we have, some beliefs we have, even if they're painful, we like. I call it loving them subconsciously, because it confirms something about ourselves. It's a familiar pattern, so yeah. This is my concept, but I think it pops up in some psychological theories. And when I recognize that, then whatever it was, being stupid or this or that or the other, I realize, well, actually, I really like this idea. I like this belief about myself. Because it confirms to me something not only about myself, but the world, other people, whether I'm loved or not, etc. Whether I'm complete or not. And then another way of looking at loneliness and understanding it is that from the point of view of consciousness, consciousness is always alone in that sense. There's only consciousness, yes? But it's not a so-called negative thing anymore. It's not uncomfortable. Yes? It's a bit strange when we come into that. You've probably experienced that taste. Suddenly recognizing, well, actually, I'm always alone as consciousness of God. So I appear as the other to keep myself company, to play, to dance, to love, to hate, to create, to destroy, yes? The game of Leela. Even that's not accurate because it's not really the motivation of consciousness God or the manifestation. Yes? But we can see it, talk about it like that. The singular God consciousness alone appears as all the objects in the infinite universe, reflects itself, so that it's not alone. And when that's sufficiently understood or integrated, and if we personalize the concept, I am that I am God, God I am, then the other is I am the other is myself. Suddenly we're never alone. Never alone. We might not be connecting, we might not be talking, we might not share the same interests or the same needs or desires or perspective, but we're always with ourselves in the form of the other. And we're never alone. Whether it's a tree or a bird, a human being, a rock, a sky, we're never alone. see it like that, in the moment, just in the moment, now, how do you feel?
When I have these feelings about my consciousness, yeah, it comes, then it kind of disappears, and I feel like, yeah, space, like I'm spaceless, I don't know, and then everything disappears.
So, what I'm suggesting is, take that understanding, which is a feeling, as you say, but it's an understanding as well. It's the feeling and the understanding combined.
Yeah.
Bring that into every single object that's being experienced. Yes? Personalize it. Bring it back into relative duality. Simple daily experience. In this stool, this camera, this carpet, fan, everything is that same consciousness. Yes? But if we say it is consciousness or life or God, there's still a subtle, very subtle duality between me and consciousness. Very subtle. Even though we've understood it's not separate. That's the mechanism of the dualistic mind. So that's why I say, let's personalize it. Let's say, I am the stool. I am the fan. I am the carpet. I am the person I like. I am the person I don't like. Yes? Not the stool is consciousness. We've already understood the stool is consciousness. Yes? But when we personalize it, when we integrate it, something changes in the cellular memory, in the energy body. Then the lived experience is that it's always consciousness as I am. I am the stool. The stool is what I am. You understand? So if you do that for a moment, how do you feel?
Very relaxed.
Do you feel lonely or not lonely?
Just like, I feel like nothing, not lonely, not normal.
So, the last part of this so-called equation is that then when loneliness reappears, or aloneness, because there's a difference between loneliness and aloneness.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter, either loneliness reappears or aloneness reappears, or both. In that moment, take that loneliness or that aloneness as I am. Consciousness as I am is that loneliness or aloneness. Do you see?
Yeah.
So the experience of loneliness or aloneness will still appear depending on our genes and condition. But our attitude towards it is completely different. You understand what I'm saying? Because we've understood deeply, this is also what I am. It's also what I am. Nothing to be afraid of, nothing to... It's also what I am. Because as we know, it's not the experience or the belief I am alone, or I am lonely, which is the only pain, discomfort or suffering. What's hiding beneath that is some other kind of fear. So there's some other root there, which is basically what happens to me, what will happen to me if I'm completely alone. If I'm completely alone. And that could be connected, of course, to abandonment. Or something else. So here, by taking it, like the bull by the horns, we take this and we deeply accept, actually, yes, of course, I'm totally alone. As consciousness, this is also what I am. As consciousness, nothing can happen to me if I'm abandoned, if I'm alone. As the body, mind, organism, ego, something can happen to me. Yes? So the identity shifts, and this shift of identity, understanding of who we are, dissolves the deeper fear. Nothing can fundamentally happen to me if I'm alone, or if I'm abandoned. Can it? So intellectually you know that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not enough to intellectually know it. However it is, and even though you've worked on embodiment in different ways, sometimes either just hearing it one more time or just doing it in some other way, embodying it, is the last time we need to do it. Would you like to share anything?
Maybe you have some.
Sorry, I didn't understand that.
I'm trying to find my words.
You try to find it. Take your time. We're all looking at you. Anybody else? While you're trying to find your word, come back to you.
For me, aloneness and loneness are almost opposite things. Because being alone means that you can be yourself. You are not influenced by the society. You are not influenced by the outer world in a sense, and you can be authentic, real. And loneliness means that you need a company. You need someone who will be with you, who would share. And then if you need it badly, then that's totally different. Because then being alone, it's like being an emperor. And being lonely, it's being like a beggar. Very different. So I understood that when you said that you, when you used to be a devotee of Osho, that you miss the company of those Osho devotees. They used to live in the society, in the community, right? Like in Portland and somewhere in Pune and some other places. So could it be like that you feel lonely, that you don't find enough people who are the Osho devotees, and
It's nothing about Osho devotees or
Okay.
not Osho or not devotees,
Okay.
but I understand what you mean. Yeah, I agree. Aloneness, and I'm okay with this, and I enjoy it. But this loneliness, it's more like feelings that you don't belong, not to not to this, not to that. Like I'm from another planet. I don't know. I feel weird sometimes. No, seriously. That's the feeling. I feel weird because I thought, why I don't like this Western society. And I told you I was in a business. I went through this, yeah. And I dropped it because it was like for me. I just don't enjoy it, and also everything. And meanwhile, like being here, yeah, and looking at people how they are devoted to mountain and this, I cannot get here. You understand what I mean? Yeah.
Of course.
This is this thing. I feel weird. I feel maybe I am from somewhere else which doesn't belong in this earth.
From another planet.
Yeah.
Of course.
Did anyone have this feeling? I don't know. And it's like kind of all my life going through, yeah, but and I cannot find the answer for it. So, but okay, I take, okay, it is as it is, I am as I am, what I can do, yeah. It just,
That was my point, because
Yeah.
the desire to find an answer to anything is believing that there's an objective answer.
yeah,
But when you relax into, okay, it is the way it is, there's no need to find one answer, one reason or explanation. Otherwise, we're always looking for a reason or an explanation, an answer for something. Because we believe that there's a right or a wrong answer. But if you understand already your consciousness, you are all the answers, and you are none of the answers. You are from another planet, and you're also not from another planet. Because even the answer, I'm from another planet, will only explain one very limited aspect of who we are. Does this make sense? Only an object can be or not be from another planet. But you've never been just this object. So the loneliness or the aloneness only comes from believing we are an object. Deep belief, I am an object, a separate object. That's why I said to you, you've already experienced moments where you not only experience, but understand this. Yes? It's the combination of the two. So if you go deeper into that, you cannot claim anymore, I'm alone or I'm lonely. It's just a claim that comes from the ego intellect that believes it is a separate object. You know you're not a separate object. Yes? So then similarly, all these concepts, and I like what you're saying about being a beggar, yes, but ultimately we can claim I'm not a beggar. Okay, that feels good. Then what if we claim I am a beggar? Yeah, that feels okay as well. So being a beggar or not beggar is fine. So there's a freedom beyond any of these claims, which is not freedom. Freedom is still a claim, because freedom is the opposite of no freedom. There's a freedom beyond freedom, which is there are no claims anymore of who we are or who we're not. There's experience, of course, but there's no strong identification claim of any of it.
What about in the negation with the consciousness then?
Even that's a claim. Or, and it's not semantics for me anymore, but if we say I am consciousness, that's a certain feeling. Everything is consciousness. That's a certain feeling. then we say nothing is consciousness, or there is no consciousness. That's a feeling. When we say, I am not consciousness, that's another feeling. Somewhere we recognize these are just feelings, experiences, thoughts, sensations. And this is duality. But there's a knowing there is something beyond this duality. Beyond the duality of everything is consciousness, nothing is consciousness. Everything is consciousness, nothing is consciousness, is duality. But it's part of this beyond duality, which is what we're pointing to. Then to say, I am not consciousness, nothing is consciousness, everything is consciousness, I am consciousness. Okay, so what? So any word concept can be looked at and understood in this way, and also felt. The felt experience of the concepts. Of course it's intellectual, but then it's what we say in the heart, yes? But it's actually happening also in the body, it's happening in the energy field, yes? The understanding is permeating all these parts of our being. It's not just the mind and the heart. Yes? So how does the body feel about I am consciousness? Or I am not consciousness? How does the energy feel about consciousness is everything, consciousness is nothing? And then finally, how do I, these four parts of what I am, feel or understand when I go beyond the concepts? When there's no claim, no belief at all. How do I feel? What's actually the feeling, the sensation, the energetic experience in the moment when I go beyond all concepts?
It's a peace. It's a complete peace.
I agree with you, it's a peace. So go beyond that peace. Go beyond the nothing. Don't stop there. Don't stop there. Go on. There's still something, isn't there? Not the word something, not the word nothing. No, not the word nothing.
Yeah.
Not the idea of what nothing is or isn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The word nothing, we understand it in a certain way, each of us differently. Then there's nothing as an experience, because it's been checked experientially by the five senses. Yes? If we go beyond that nothing, we can't say it's nothing. There's still a taste, there's still a something. But it's not a something. It's not a something. It's not a thing. This nothing, something. It's not an object. Nothing.
So it's a
or
consciousness. Yeah.
Yes, but it's not the word consciousness, you see?
So there are no words to express
Exactly.
it, so it's just like that.
Exactly. Exactly.
You cannot put
Exactly. That's what I mean about no claim, no idea, no belief, no concept of it. But I call it just knowing. It's known. Or we can say there's no doubt, there's no question. Obvious. Yes? Do you understand what I mean? Along the way, each of us will discover, I prefer everything is consciousness. Or I prefer the word life, or God, or love. Yes? I prefer the nothing, or I prefer the something. Yes? I prefer the fullness, or some people prefer the emptiness. Yes? I prefer the aloneness, or I prefer the company. I prefer the silence, or I prefer the communication and the noise. We quickly discover our own egoic preference, but also the belief we have about it. And as long as that belief remains alive, there's a claim, some kind of a claim of who we are or who we are not. That's okay, because the claims and the beliefs, the preferences, are very useful, are very important. If we're talking about pointing towards our non-dual nature, we need to recognize that at some point there's a hidden belief still. So we bring that belief to the surface. Yes? When we talk about loneliness, there's a hidden belief there. We bring that to the surface. And then we look at this hidden belief. What is it really do I still believe in? What is it really that I'm still claiming about myself or about consciousness? And there's an understanding which is tasted, a knowing which is tasted, beyond this belief. In other words, a knowing or understanding beyond intellectual understanding of it. That's the ultimate silence. That's the taste of our fundamental nature, the self, consciousness, God, blah, blah, blah. I sometimes call it chocolate, marshmallows, cheese. Somebody once called it cheesecake. We are all cheesecake. Everything is cheesecake. It's kind of nice. We are all hamburgers, or French fries, or salad, depending on how you see it. Then the word doesn't matter anymore. There's no egoic intellectual attachment to the word, which is the thought, or to any experience, state, or energy. Attachment just disappears. Talking about attachment from understanding. Yes. Then there's temporary attachment, preferences, likes, dislikes, in the flow of daily life, responding to our biological needs. That's different. Yes. It's like you were talking about, then recognizing the duality of me and God disappears. This either happens as understanding and realizing I don't exist, and God doesn't exist. Consciousness doesn't exist. If I don't exist, consciousness doesn't exist. That duality disappears. But there's still something that exists, something that we are. It's impossible to deny it. Impossible to deny it. I mean, of course, we can deny it.
Intellectually. Intellectually, it's one thing. Another thing is just to live through. Be there. And it's impossible to describe.
Correct.
When you drop away all the concepts,
yes.
you drop away all the words, all the thoughts,
yes.
It's still something there.
That's right. So all I'm saying is, drop away that something that's there. I know it's impossible to do, but more precisely, drop away the need or the desire to interpret or understand or feel or experience that something that is there. Because otherwise that something that is there becomes a subtle kind of object. So the understanding that something is there includes everything else that appears, which is all the ideas, the concepts, the claims and the beliefs. Then there's no distinction anymore between the something that is here or something that is there and concepts, ideas, beliefs, including I am a separate object, including all duality. Then we understand some of Ramana's words in a different way. Where can I go where I am not already? We could say, what can I do, or what can I not do, which I am not doing or not doing already? See, the duality of idea, concept, belief, for example, and this dropping away, which I like and I sometimes use also as a concept. There's still a subtle duality between that and the something that is here, something that is always here. It's so subtle that the intellect, once it has tasted it and understood it, often doesn't want to come back or doesn't even think about coming back to look at. Because, it's obvious something is here. Yes? But the something that is here is what we are. Yes. But then the thought, the concept, the idea, the belief is also what we are. I'm an individual human being is something that we are also. I have these needs and desires and fears and loneliness. It's also what I am. Yay!
What about being with no identity?
Of course. Welcome, Mr. No Identity.
That's an identity.
That's what I'm saying. So then all and any identity can be taken, can even be claimed, like an actor takes on a role and another role and another role. But nothing's terribly serious anymore. Yes, I'm somebody, yes, I'm nobody, yes, I'm God, yes, I'm a pile of shit, yes, I'm this, yes, I'm that. Or, no, I'm not this, no, you're wrong, no, he's wrong. What's the big deal anymore? Yes, no, existence, non-existence. Truth, no truth. It's cheesecake. It has to be cheesecake. It's obvious. It's cheesecake. See, Marius got it. The minute I said cheesecake, that resonated deeply.
Absolutely. Very cheesecake.
Yeah. We're all part of one giant cheesecake.
Cheesecake party.
That's it.
Good.
Where's the truth? In the cheesecake. We run to the German bakery. We buy up all the cheesecake. We start a cheesecake factory. We open cheesecake cafes. This is the truth. We are all cheesecake. Of course it's the truth. And somebody opens a chocolate factory, chocolate bit. They say, chocolate is the truth. Of course chocolate is the truth. And it goes on like this. Everything is the truth. Yes.
No.
That is also correct. You are right. You're absolutely right. You've gone from Mr. I don't exist to now Mr. I exist. I'm right.
Is that not?
There's something wrong here in this, because when you spoil the term truth, then what? We are all seekers of truth in a sense, and we want to find it, like catch it like a bird, you know. And there's this seeking, you know, for the truth.
There's the guy I knew. He's back. Welcome back.
Yeah.
I think one of our first conversations was similar to this.
It was long ago.
Just yesterday. And I'm not disputing what you're saying. You're absolutely right. Some of us, if we did a survey, not everybody is looking for the truth in that way, but something like that, yes, the ultimate understanding, realization, experience, whatever it is, yes. So you're absolutely right. That's the nature of our seeking. I'm not questioning that. I'm just questioning, can we actually find it? Or is it already always here, but we just don't recognize it?
Okay, let's talk about that.
Shall we take a quick break?
Sure.
Because it's going to be a heavy one.
Yes.
We might need some food and drink. Crack open the whiskey or the wine.
Cheesecake.
Something beyond what you think you understand or don't understand. So if I could just start with this idea that when we use the word truth or any word, that's what I call intellectual understanding. Truth, no truth. But there's already an understanding which is beyond this. And for some human beings, body-mind organisms, this understanding beyond intellectual understanding becomes conscious. Then it goes away, and it becomes conscious. And one day, it's just always conscious. It's always known, it's never forgotten. So the same intellectual understanding is valid and useful. There is truth, no truth, in certain situations in life. Life is duality. But the search for the truth ends. Does that make sense? In other words, part of you is not looking for the truth. Never has. Part of you was looking for the truth, but knows it. Knows what it is and what it's not. And there's a part of you also that's still looking for the truth. 3 parts of you. All, of course, one cheesecake.
Like some religions, like have 3 different embodiments of the deities.
So if we agree on those terms of the debate, like when the Chinese or the Japanese and the Americans get together, apparently before, I think probably before computers, they would first send their negotiating teams up and agree on all the words and the meaning of the words in the negotiations. Then the CEOs or whatever, the other team would come together. Yes? So these are the parameters of our conversation. There's a part of you that knows, has always known. A part of you that knows because you've understood and tasted. And a part of you that still thinks you don't know. Would you agree with my terms?
Well, I can agree with whatever you tell me.
No, I mean in terms of exploring the word truth. What is truth, you see? I tell you why I sometimes do this with some people, is because otherwise we're just going to be talking about this one part of our being that thinks it does or doesn't know experience. Yes?
Okay, let's do that.
Ding ding. Time's up. Go on. No, I'm just joking. There's actually a chapter in my new book which is all about truth.
You give a definition of it.
No, it was a conversation that came up in one of the Satsangs. It's just a collection of the talks that are transcribed. And one of them was exactly this. Please go ahead.
The paradoxical part of this is that when we feel that it's truth, we know it. Somewhere deep, I don't know where, but we know it. But as soon as we tell it, it fades away, it goes away. And it's not truth anymore. So it's like a living being. It's something like changes all the time. We just try to catch it and we getting closer and we feel that it's there almost. And when we suddenly, intellectually, as we say, digest it, it's not truth anymore. What to do?
That was much shorter than I expected.
Well,
I think that's what's changed in you. You're much more clearer to the point. This is what I noticed immediately about you. There's something that's settled. So, thank you. So my take on it is pretty much the same as you, because that was as Ragi, my experience. It came and went. Yes. Peace came and went. Joy came and went. Happiness came and went. So-called understanding came and went. So when I looked at what is the truth, I found one thing was I had an idea which was very much unique to me, because when I talked about it, people had different ideas. I had a specific idea of what truth was and truth wasn't. It was Ragi's idea. Of course, I understood genes, conditioning, blah, blah, blah. That didn't help very much. So the same was with enlightenment, self-realization. I had a specific idea of what it was and what it wasn't. And this is not sequential, what I'm saying. At some point then I recognized truth, enlightenment, peace, whatever it is still for Ragi an object to be found, not found, experienced, not experienced. Accepted, etc. It's still some kind of an object, whether it's a mental object, an experiential object, an energetic object. So these two things help me to understand why the seeking was happening. The basic seeking is that there's always some objective goal, desire, place, experience, state, energy. Even love, for most of us, is a kind of an object. It's a reductionist argument to call it an object, but since we're familiar with the non-dual terms, I'm using it. It's a different audience, I wouldn't call it an object. I'd call it a feeling or something. So, if we understand that anything we're seeking, whether it's truth or something else, is some kind of object for us, in our understanding of it, in our experience of it, that becomes really interesting. Okay, there's the object I'm looking for. Of course, we've tasted the object, we've held the object, we've loved the object, we were once one with the object, and all that has happened, yes? Yay. And then we miss it, we want it again, we want it for long, we want it permanently, blah, blah, blah. It's still because there's an object, subject. And that's, you already understand. So this subject-object relationship, I discovered, was the nature of the functioning of the intellect. Not all mind. I have this subtle conceptual difference now, which maybe wasn't there when I last met you, that for me I was trying to understand what the intellect is and what mind is. So for me, intellect is functioning in duality as duality. There's always a subject-object. And the basis of intellect is thoughts, thought structures, beliefs, ideas, concepts, etc. So as long as I'm looking for something with the intellect, it will remain an object. And my understanding of it is a so-called objective understanding. In other words, I can describe what truth is, what it's not. I can even describe the colors, the shape, the form, the taste, the flavor. Some people really experience truths like this. The second thing that was discovered, or the third or fourth thing, I forget now, is that truth comes from memory. The idea of truth, what it is and what it's not, is only coming from memory. Without memory, in the so-called present moment, there's no actual idea of truth or no truth. And it's really interesting because even at the level of the cellular memory and the energy body, there can be a moment where there's no memory or no active memory.
Regarding the memory, what you mentioned is very important, but at the same time, if you want to experience something new that you never did, memory is an obstacle.
That brings me to the fifth or sixth or whichever point. That if we believe truth from memory is some kind of an object, meaning state, experience, whatever it is, yes? And there's a comparison of truth, non-truth, that's one way of searching. If for a moment we change what you just said, which is our memory of truth, our understanding of what truth is not and is, then there is a possibility in the moment everything is the truth. My understanding of everything is the truth is everything is the self. The self is the truth. Truth is the self. Consciousness, God, love. So that concept is accurate as a concept. Yes. It's understood by the intellect. It's felt by the heart. Yes. But if we want to, or are interested, we analyze what the words mean, or our understanding of the words. If the self means everything, then the word truth makes sense. In that context, truth is the self, self is the truth. Because the word self means everything, including nothing. Yes? But when we take truth on its own, truth has the duality of no truth or lie. And we've temporarily forgotten or moved away from the understanding the self is everything. So if we take the same word, the truth, and instead of it being a descriptive word of some things and not other things, but it's the word which means everything that's always ever happening or not happening, we are always in the presence of the truth. Everything that we are doing or not doing, everything that anybody has ever done through history, that's another difficult one, is the truth. The truth is what we are. If the self is what we are, then the truth is what we are. Intellectually, for some of us, and that was my case, I then had to come back to the idea of no truth, lie, or all the terrible things that happen, and somehow include that in the word truth, include it in the word self, and then I was at peace with lies, no truths. Or I understood that no truths are an aspect of the self, Therefore, no truths are also an aspect of the so-called truth. But that was difficult for me particularly because in my experience of trauma, which was in the body, there was a resistance to that. Bad actions, injustices, violence, all that. So that was a challenge not for only the intellect, but for the emotional body, physical body, and general. So if we come back then to our seeking, am I still seeking the truth? Yes. Is the truth here? Yes. It's no longer a paradox. And one day then we check and say to ourselves, what am I seeking for? It's not the truth anymore. Because we've understood and accepted everything is always the truth. I am the truth. And in some traditions, I think it's probably the Christian tradition, there's a phrase which is similar to that, isn't there? The truth is what I am, or something like that.
Jesus Christ said, I am the light of this world, which also meant the same thing.
So I am the light, I am the truth. So there we use the word light instead of the word self, God. So we can see that in many traditions, I think probably most traditions, we'll find that the concept of the truth is married to the concept of the self, the light, God. The divorce only exists in the intellect. The separation is only something the intellect is creating. Experience is just experience. The intellect interprets the experience. Good, bad, true, false, pleasurable, painful. Experience is just experience. And the basic interpretation of the experience is I and the experience. Me and the experience. Me and the other. Me and the other has never actually existed. It's just experience. But the intellect interprets it and creates this separation of me and the other.
When there is no separation, then something different happens.
So that's why recognizing whether it's truth or whatever we're looking for, we have these moments much more than the intellect admits or understands, where the absence of the search is present. We talk about the presence of our search, the presence of our problem, the presence of our whatever it is. We're talking about that, the presence of it, the existence of it. But when it's not there, there's nothing to talk about. And there's no idea of truth or no truth. That's why when I say that even God disappears in our understanding, in the absence of thoughts, the idea of God or no God, and what God is or not, disappears. And if we were able to slow it down, or measure it with some machine, or create an image out of it, even what I said about the something, there's no perceiving of the something in that moment. Because the perceiving and the something is not two. It's a fraction of a second later that the mind or the intellect claims there is something. Just before that claim, there's nothing to say, there's no claim, there's no thoughts, there's no even idea of perceiving, experiencing. Yes? kind of silence. And that's happening all the time. It's happening, it's not happening, it's happening, it's not happening, it's happening, it's not happening. It's like a switch, a light switch. It's almost like being in a discotheque and the strobe lights. You're going on, and we're dancing to it. I used to love the dancing in the Puno ashram. So this is what the mind is doing. It's like flicking on, flicking off, flicking on. But it's only talking about one part of this activity. When it's on, it's talking. When it's off, no talking. When it's on, seeking. When it's off, no seeking.
But what is mind without memory?
It's exactly that. Mind without memory.
All thoughts are based on memory, on previous experience and so on.
Yes. I totally agree. So that's the mind of memory. And when there's no memory, is it still mind? So we can check it in a very easy way. Choose an object, any object in this room. Let's do it as a visual exercise. Stare at the object, and we'll do it for 15-30 seconds. So let all the memory come up about the object, the colors, the shape, the history, the smell, the taste. I hope no trauma gets triggered. We'll deal with that. Because I have a sort of slight trauma with red stools. So memory is telling us what this object is. Descriptions. Past experiences. That's memory, yes? If we looked at the object for long enough, there'll be a gap, a space in memory. Would you agree? So in that gap, that space of memory, there are no descriptions, no labels, no memories of past experience, no future thinking of what will happen or not happen to this object. There's just a gap. But we still see the object. There's a seeing of the object. That's also mind. There's an impersonal seeing of the object which is happening without memory. I call it impersonal because even the I am seeing the object has disappeared. Impersonal seeing or witnessing of the object. I call that mind. In other words, all so-called perceiving, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, is, as the five senses, being filtered through what we call the mind. But it's not personal. It's not impersonal either. It's just happening. If we understand that, then we're open to the idea that mind is not located in the brain. There are not 8, 9 minds here. There are 8 or 9 brains. 9 brains, yes. Brain is a biological tool. But when we talk about mind, then we're open to the idea maybe there's one mind. The mind of God. The self, consciousness. But it feels like there's individual mind. We understand there's one mind, but it feels like there's an individual mind. And that feeling becomes a belief. We function as an individual in this life. when the belief drops away, the feeling of individual mind may continue, may not, depending on the situation. So even personal perceiving might be felt, impersonal perceiving might be felt. So the distinction then between personal and impersonal, one mind, individual mind, gets blurred. So then similarly, individual seeking or God seeking gets blurred. Individual realization or God realization gets blurred. Who cares? Who cares in the sense that it doesn't matter anymore because it's been understood. Personal feeling exists. It's useful. Very useful. But sometimes it's not there. That's also useful. In the same way at night, sleep without the senses, without the egoic thought I, without memory, allows the body to rest, to rejuvenate for those hours that it needs to. That's very useful. Personal story comes back in the morning. I want a cup of tea with milk and sugar, but not cow's milk. Very useful. So we see everything is always the truth. So if you see it this way, not from memory, not from tomorrow, just now in the next 10, 30 seconds, have you found the truth?
Then there is no need to look for it. There is this word tathata that says everything is perfect. It's a Sanskrit word. When you find that out, there is no need for any truth. It's all there.
Then the next thing is, in this moment, could you say something like, I am the truth. The truth is what I am.
That's true.
Could you say it?
I could say it.
Can you
One,
say it?
I am the truth.
A little louder?
I am the truth.
Wonderful. Shall we all try that together, in our own way? I am the truth. I am the truth. Shall we do it aloud?
Yeah.
I am the truth.
I am the truth.
I am the truth.
Louder.
I am the truth.
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 Now we try it in a different way. The truth is what I am.
Truth is what I am.
Truth is what I am.
Yes.
Truth is what I am.
I am the truth.
I am
The
truth.
truth is what I am.
Truth is what
I am the truth. The truth is what I am.
So we finally found it.
We finally found it. Oh, we understood. We were always it. You see the difference? You can't find something that you always have been. You just realize it. You can't find something that you have always been. You realize that. The self realizes the self.
So now happens self-realization.
Sorry?
Self-realizations, that's what happened.
The self is realizing itself.
Yeah.
If the self is the truth, the self is everything, logically self-realization means the self realizes itself. Self-recognizing, self-understanding.
That's what we are here for.
It's impossible to be anything else because everything is the self.
Go tell everybody here.
But the self already knows. That's the beautiful thing. The self already knows itself. It's just playing and pretending a game of hide and seek. That's why Ramana had no desire to go anywhere else. The self already exists everywhere. The self already knows. The self takes care of itself. The difficult thing for the so-called individual ego intellect is to accept that some of the ways the self takes care of itself are unjust, violent, cruel, unhealthy, destructive. That's very difficult to accept. And it might never be totally liked, in that way not totally accepted, but it's totally understood and accepted in that way. So we might find ourselves with this understanding crystal clear, never covered up anymore. The self is everything, the truth is everything. The self is always taking care of the self. But in a particular situation in daily life, we don't like something, we dislike it, we want to change it. That will also happen. That is also the way the self is taking care of itself. Si tu veux, vraiment si tu veux. Sinon ça peut être demain.
Try in English. I haven't had any question since today, and for the moment, I understood that there is nothing to find. Not a better experience somewhere. How could I find an object that has no limits? So to say that everything was there from the beginning. I don't have to achieve anything. It's like if I want to see God catch him, but if I take my phone, so it's like God, because it's a self. So
Please continue. Continue.
I realized if you can translate this part.
Yes. But can I just show you God?
Yes. Yes. Et du coup,
This is not
Actually, between language, God and face, same word, just two letters are, yeah. Better than the others. Huh?
Which language?
Lithuanian.
You're from Lithuania?
Oh yeah.
I'm from Latvia.
Good.
Qu'est-ce que tu veux que je traduise, pardon?
C'est comme si, en fait, depuis 2 jours, j'avais compris que la recherche en elle-même, c'était comme arrêté. Parce qu'en fait, je ne pouvais pas trouver un objet quelque part. Parce que trouver quelque chose, c'est déjà limiter quelque chose. Donc, en fait, tu cherches en boucle. Et là où en fait ça tombe, c'est que c'est déjà là, tout est déjà là. Et le paradoxe, c'est que tu dis j'ai trouvé quelque chose, mais en fait tu as trouvé que tu n'as pas trouvé. Tu as trouvé que tu n'as pas trouvé. Mais en même temps, c'est un concept. Et autant, comme on en parlait hier, dans un mois ou 2, il y aura d'autres questions. Mais là, au moment où je parle, qu'est-ce que je peux trouver ? Il n'y a pas une meilleure version de moi quelque part, il n'y aura pas un meilleur truc, il n'y a pas une meilleure expérience. Le corps, lui, va vivre des expériences.
Meilleur dans le sens absolu, tu veux dire.
Ouais.
Mais meilleur dans le sens relatif.
Ah oui, dans le relatif, je peux faire du sport,
Voilà.
Je vais devenir plus musclé.
Super.
Mais il n'y a rien à trouver.
Tu pourrais devenir plus musclé. Parfait comme tu es.
C'est gentil.
Moi aussi.
Ouais.
Thank you. Tu veux que je traduise ou tu veux traduire?
Peut-être la dernière phrase de dire finalement tu peux pas. La fin du chemin, c'est tu penses qu'il y a la fin du chemin, mais comme je te dis là, tu peux pas. C'est la phrase que j'ai dit tout à l'heure. Tu peux pas en fait trouver quelque chose de limité, tu peux pas te. C'est déjà là en fait. C'est en fait la recherche. Et
Alors,
le paradoxe.
Je vais le traduire comme ça.
Oui, le paradoxe c'est de penser trouver voilà cet objet, mais le paradoxe c'est quand tu finalement as arrêté la recherche, tu as trouvé quelque chose. Mais en fait, tu l'as pas trouvé.
Ok, alors je vais. I'm just going to clarify that with you for a moment before I translate it. No, I'll translate it first. So, what he's saying is that he's understood that there's nothing to find. That's one part of the understanding. And that he said it slightly differently, which is what I want to explore. He said when the searching ends, the searching ends because you understand there's nothing to find. Oui? La recherche se termine quand tu comprends qu'il n'y a rien à trouver. Toi, tu l'as dit de la façon inverse. Oui? When the searching ends, you realize there's nothing to find. Tu as compris ça?
Mais penser, dire qu'il n'y a
What
rien à
comes
trouver.
first?
That's exactly it.
Dire
Which comes first? Lequel, au fait, vient en premier? When the mind of thoughts is not active, there's no searching. Yes? Then the mind of thoughts starts searching. Which came first? It's like the chicken and the egg. Which came first?
C'est le paradoxe.
No. In terms of our physical development, there was no searching at birth. Because the mind of thoughts, the intellect, doesn't exist at birth. Thoughts are what we learn. The intellect develops. Yes? Then, in our daily life, the mind of thoughts, the intellect, stops. There's all this, but no thoughts about it. No searching. Yes? So, in terms of our biology, the mind of no thoughts, we can say is deeper. Some people say purer. That's why there are so many practices to reduce thoughts, to cancel thoughts. But the deepest understanding is both the mind of thoughts and no thoughts. The mind that's searching and not searching is the self. And the self is what we are. So in the end, if the mind is questioning, searching, worrying, comparing, judging, or if the mind is silent, the knowing is the same. I am this. This is what I am. So you recognize that weeks or months later, the searching might start again. A question might come up. That was my experience as well. Sometimes for weeks or months with Ramesh, no particular question would come up. And suddenly, something would come up, I'd ask him, or read a book, and go away again. So then what's left of the ego intellect, because the ego intellect structure remains, it's just not spiritually searching. It's more relaxed if the searching comes up again. It's not judging itself. Oh, I've forgotten, I've lost my knowing, I've disconnected. It's understanding. Searching, no searching. Thoughts, no thoughts. Object, no object. Finding or not finding, then is okay. You see what I mean? The finding or not finding is part of the search. But the root of the search is the me. The me wanting to find or not find. So the intellectual searching will end. Sometimes in this way. It's clearly understood there's nothing to find. Because everything is consciousness God, and consciousness God is what I am. Or in other words, consciousness God is looking for consciousness God. That's the intellectual understanding. So the intellectual searching stops. But the so-called me still exists. Yes? And other things can happen. Searching can start again, a different object of search can come up. And particularly, this, what I call claim, it's normal to have this joy and this happiness or relief. I'm not searching.
So both. It's not,
Neutral.
yeah, it's not like
There's no party, no end of searching party. You're not going to have a party for us? End of searching party? Une fête? Une célébration?
je me suis déjà.
Oui, mais pour nous,
Ah,
pour les autres. Tu vas pas faire une fête?
no. Because it's not big structure. It's you can catch. It's like every day. So if it's like every day, no party.
Oh,
Sorry, with a street club with you at Vegas. But it's like every day. No happy or not happy. Maybe yes. And now because when you see the Satsang every day, It's a part of your life. It's yes, it's a daily des habitudes, le quotidien.
Daily habits.
Yes, but in a video or here or in Japan, in the United States, you can find a place to find the truth or not true. So all the words, when I speak of the words, is a concept.
That's it.
And if I can speak a little bit, it's silence. Silence can be close to
Silence is not closer to anything. That's another claim.
Yeah.
It's another belief. You want something?
yes.
Silence, yes. No silence, yes. But if there's an idea, silence is closer to something.
It's not an idea. It's
How can silence be closer to something? Comment est-ce que le silence peut être plus près de quelque chose?
parce que
Peut-être c'est pas ça
parce que
je
tout
voulais
ce
dire.
que parce que tout c'était pour aller plus loin des mots d'avant. Tout ce que je peux dire en mots
Ouais.
ne peut pas s'approcher de ce que ne peut pas s'approcher en fait.
Oui, mais le silence non plus ne peut pas s'approcher.
Non, c'est le paradoxe.
C'est pas un paradoxe.
Ben, c'est les deux en même temps. Et
Non, c'est pas ça. C'est parce que tu ne peux pas t'approcher de quelque chose que tu as toujours été.
oui, ça je suis d'accord, c'est pour trouver des mots, parce que c'est encore un concept. C'est pour
Alors, on arrête
pointer.
de vouloir trouver les mots. Mais c'est pas forcément
C'est
le
vrai.
silence, tu vois.
Oui, mais j'ai pas dit que c'était une vérité d'être en silence.
Non, mais tu as dit que c'était plus proche. Et c'est pourquoi je te dis non, c'est pas plus proche.
C'est pas plus proche en effet, c'est plus dans ce que moi je
C'est peut-être plus paisible, c'est plus agréable, oui, bien sûr. Mais c'est cette idée que c'est plus proche qu'il faut tout de suite déraciner.
ouais, je comprends.
Coupe-le, jette-le, brûle-le.
Mais en même temps plus proche, comme tu
Non, arrête de parler.
Non,
hein, parce que tu continues à vouloir expliquer quelque chose que tu as déjà reconnu que tu ne peux pas expliquer.
oui, c'est ce que je voulais dire.
Ça, c'est l'habitude.
Parce que c'est limite.
Tu vois, tu veux avoir le bon final. Arrête toi-même. Coupe, voilà. Parce que c'est reconnu et l'habitude revient. Tu vois? Okay, we'll end with a few minutes of silence.